Do you hear the sound of $1 billion fortune silently melting away? I stood at the edge of the abyss, watching 30 years of blood, sweat, and tears about to evaporate into nothingness due to the scam of the century. Don't let false security kill you. Listen closely, because the survival secret I'm about to reveal will either shock you or change your destiny forever. The liquidity trap and the pivot. Don't interrupt me. I'm not here to talk about hollow theories or the red and green charts that self-proclaimed experts often draw for you. I'm here to talk about survival. Have you ever felt the sound of a fortune melting? Have you ever seen an empire, built over 30 long years, evaporating before your eyes while you stood helpless? That is exactly what Victor Nguyen faced in the spring of 2020. While the world feared a virus, I saw a much more devastating threat. It was silent, invisible, but it could wipe out a lifetime of effort with a single stroke of a politician's pen. Listen carefully, because if you don't understand the nature of the trap you're standing in, you will be the next one swallowed by this tsunami of inflation. At that time, my corporation held a massive liquid asset, $500 million in cash. In the eyes of many, it was an impregnable fortress. But when central banks simultaneously pressed the money printing button and dropped interest rates to a flat zero, I realized that fortress was actually just a large block of ice placed under the scorching sun. Every morning I woke up. The money was still there in the account, but its purchasing power was being gnawed away bit by bit. Jerome Powell and his associates bluntly stated they weren't even thinking about raising rates for years to come. That wasn't a policy, it was a death sentence for those who believed in cash. Do you understand the feeling of owning a massive portfolio only for the government to suddenly order a freeze on all cash flow while ruthlessly diluting its value? I stood at the crossroads of destiny. The first option was a quick death. Sell off the company. Give up, and watch my life's work end in shame. The second option was a slow death. Keep clutching that $500 million. Pretending everything was fine while real inflation hit 20%. That is cowardice wearing the mask of safety. But I am an engineer. I do not accept death. I chose the third way, to fight. I began a mad journey to find a new material. A financial structure that no mayor, no president, or central bank could touch. I needed something that could transmit economic energy through space and time without loss. When I told the board of directors that I would exchange all that cash for Bitcoin, they looked at me like a madman wanting to burn the whole company down. But they didn't see what I saw. They saw a volatile virtual currency. I saw the most powerful sovereign financial network in human history in its formative stage. This wasn't a bet, it was a life or death pivot to claim economic immortality. If you want to know how I turned fear into an indestructible fortune, don't take your eyes off this video. Before we dive into the technical logic behind this historic decision, take a second to hit the subscribe button. Your support is the greatest motivation for us to continue stripping away the brutal truths of the market and sharing the battle-tested strategies that help you protect your family in this era of volatility. Subscribe now so you don't miss any secrets behind the curtain. Now, be honest with yourself. If you were me at that time, facing $500 million depreciating by 20% a year and being called crazy by the world for turning to Bitcoin, which path would you choose? Pause for a moment, reflect, and leave your opinion in the comments below using the syntax A or B. Answer A. Choose false security. Keep holding cash, and hope the government changes policy to protect the people. Answer B. Choose to face the risk. Step into a new land to seize the opportunity of owning a finite asset. And decide your own financial destiny. Comment your answer now, because this choice reveals your true mindset about wealth. The engineering mindset in finance. Imagine you are an engineer tasked with building a spacecraft to lead humanity away from a dying planet. Where would you start? You wouldn't choose materials based on emotion, or because your ancestors used them for thousands of years. You choose materials based on the immutable laws of physics. In my world, finance is not an art of vague predictions, it is a pure engineering problem. And to solve the survival problem of the massive wealth I held, I had to find the most perfect material to conduct value through space and time. For 5 millennia, humanity has worshipped gold as the savior of scarcity. I don't deny that gold was the right answer in the 19th century. But in the light of the 21st century, Gold has become an obsolete and flawed technology. Look at the brutal truth that financial experts intentionally ignore. Gold still has inflation. Every year, humans mine about 2% more new gold from the ground. That 2% sounds small, but it is a fatal flaw. Mathematically, with a 2% inflation rate, every 36 years, half of your life's labor and time crystallized in that gold will be stripped away. You spend your whole life accumulating only to see your legacy diluted by excavators in a mine. That is not freedom, it is a deferred death sentence. When I look deep into the structure of Bitcoin, I don't see a virtual currency. I see the greatest engineering masterpiece since man discovered fire. This is the first and only financial network in the history of the universe with an absolute limit of 21 million units. Stop for a second and let this truth sink into your mind. 21 million. No committee, no political power, or technological breakthrough can create the 21.000.001 stone coin. In a world where everything from fiat currency and real estate to gold can be created more, the absolute scarcity of Bitcoin is the Archimedean point to lift the entire financial world. If aluminum is the only answer for building aircraft fuselages due to its weight and durability, then Bitcoin is the aluminum of currency. It allows you to compress the entire economic energy of $1 billion corporation into a digital key. Then move it halfway across the world in seconds at near zero cost. You cannot do that with a ton of physical gold without surveillance or the risk of theft. Bitcoin is not just gold, it is programmable gold, teleporting gold, and most importantly, it is gold with a 0% inflation rate. When the inflation of an asset hits flat zero, a mathematical miracle occurs. Your economic lifespan becomes infinite. You no longer have to race against time to compensate for depreciation. You escape the spiral of immortal and step into the threshold of economic immortality. You no longer own a material that can rot or be diluted. You own a perpetual position on the most powerful digital energy network on the planet. This journey for the single right answer is not for the faint of heart or those who like blind diversification. It requires a brutal clarity to discard what is good enough and choose the best. When you realize that every other currency is leaking energy and heading toward zero, betting on Bitcoin is no longer a risk. The real risk is continuing to believe in rusted materials while a titanium jet engine has appeared right before your eyes. This is the revolution of the engineering mindset, where we no longer pray for luck, but believe in the absolute power of mathematics. The concentration doctrine in the financial world. They have injected a sugar-coated poison into your head called diversification. They tell you never to put all your eggs in one basket, to split your assets into small pieces to minimize risk. But let me tell you the brutal truth behind that advice. Diversification is actually an insurance policy for ignorance. It is how financial institutions reassure those who don't know the right answer while silently siphoning off your fortune through recurring management fees. Your real pain doesn't lie in asset volatility. It lies in the fact that you own a portfolio of mediocre things. Things that can never give you a breakthrough. And you are watching them melt away over time in a trap of false security. Look at the truth. You own growth stocks that go up a few percent a year. A few insurance policies that never cover inflation. And perhaps a little physical gold sitting there rusting. You are taught to be satisfied with a 7% or 10% return, while the richest people on the planet are playing a completely different game. Did Jeff Bezos get rich by holding 5% of Amazon and selling the other 95% to buy bonds? Did Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, or Bernard Arnault ever diversify their resources into things they didn't believe in? The answer is never. They found a great idea. A digital monopoly, or a true empire, and they bet their entire lives on it. They got rich through intense concentration, not blind spreading. The solution to the pain of being held in mediocrity is the concentration doctrine. If you were on a sinking ship in the middle of a vast ocean and found 10 lifeboats, but through an engineer's eyes, you knew for sure 9 of them had tiny holes in the bottom, what would you do? Would you split your family into 10 boats to minimize risk? Or would you put all your loved ones on the only sound boat and steer it with all your might? Bitcoin is the only sound lifeboat in this storm of global debt and inflation. When you have found an asset capable of growing 30%, 50%, or even 80% a year like Bitcoin. Keeping 90% of your capital elsewhere just for diversification is an act of self-destructing your own future. You don't need 49 ordinary ideas to protect one great idea. You only need one single right idea and enough courage to go with it to the very end. Don't turn your portfolio into a museum of obsolete things. Build a spacecraft. You can't fly into space if you keep trying to attach an oil lamp or a cart to a jet engine just because you want to diversify your types of vehicles. The only fuel you need is concentration on the most powerful, scarcest, and superior asset. When you own a digital monopoly in its hyper-growth phase with a valuation that is cheap compared to its potential, any act of dispersing resources is a mistake. Have the courage to give up false security to seize the power of concentration. For that is the only path that leads you out of the grip of the middle class and into the world of those who truly hold their own destiny. The conviction under fire. Don't interrupt me. I'm not here to talk about hollow theories or the red and green charts that self-proclaimed experts still draw. I'm here to talk about survival. Have you ever felt the sound of a fortune melting? Have you ever seen an empire, built over 30 long years, evaporating before your eyes while you stood helpless? That is exactly what Victor Nguyen faced in the spring of 2020. While the world feared a virus, I saw a more devastating threat: the collapse of currency. If you don't understand the nature of the trap you're standing in, you will be the next one swallowed by this tsunami of inflation. At that time, my corporation held $500 million in cash. In the eyes of many, it was an impregnable fortress. But when central banks pressed the button to print money indiscriminately, I realized that fortress was actually just a block of ice under the scorching sun. Every morning I woke up, its purchasing power was being gnawed away bit by bit. I stood at a crossroads. Either accept a slow death, clutching melting money, or fight to find a financial structure that no government could touch. I chose to fight. Before diving deeper, hit the subscribe button now. Your support is the motivation for us to strip away the brutal truths of the market. Now, answer by commenting A. Choose false security. Keep cash, or B. Choose risk. Seize Bitcoin, so I know your true mindset. Imagine you are an engineer building a spacecraft to escape a dying planet. You choose materials based on immutable physical laws. For 5 millennia, humanity worshipped gold, but gold still has a supply inflation of 2% per year. Every 36 years, half of your life's labor accumulated in gold will be stripped away by excavators. Bitcoin is different. This is the only financial network with an absolute limit of 21 million units. No power can create the 21.000.001 stone coin. If aluminum is the only material for building aircraft shells, then Bitcoin is the aluminum of currency. It allows you to compress the economic energy of $1 billion into a digital key and move it instantly. When inflation hits zero, your economic life becomes infinite. You escape the mortal spiral to step into the threshold of economic immortality. The real risk is not Bitcoin's volatility. The risk is believing in currencies that are leaking energy towards zero. Diversification is actually an insurance policy for ignorance. Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk got rich through intense concentration on the best idea, not blind spreading. If you saw 10 lifeboats and 9 had holes, would you split your family among 10 to reduce risk? Bitcoin is the only sound boat in this storm of public debt. Keeping 90% of your capital in inefficient places just for diversification is an act of self-destructing your future. Convincing the board of directors to spend $250 million on Bitcoin was the loneliest moment of my life. Right after buying at $11.800, it crashed to $9.600. We lost $40 million in just 2 weeks. If I had given up, I would have been forever stuck in the loop of buying high and selling low out of fear. Hesitation is the poison that kills the greatest opportunities. It makes you grow old alongside the increasingly worthless money in your pocket. Conversely, the reward for steadfastness is absolute freedom. We established a steel discipline: buy every day, report transparently every Monday morning. The benefit was turning an ordinary business into the most powerful financial fortress on the planet. Between the price volatility of Bitcoin and the certain decay of cash, I choose Bitcoin. The final question is, Do you have the guts to stand firm when the whole world turns its back? The reward for the survivor is always the brightest dawn of eternal wealth.